The rain pounded against my apartment window as I, Bailey Adams, sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor surrounded by evidence of a life I no longer recognized. Hotel receipts from cities my boyfriend Jackson Reed claimed he'd never visited. Credit card statements showing dinners for two on nights he'd texted me about working late. Screenshots of mysterious calls to unfamiliar numbers that appeared with alarming regularity. At 32, I had spent 5 years building what I believed was an honest, committed relationship with the man I planned to marry. Now, on a stormy Tuesday evening in Atlanta, that carefully constructed reality was disintegrating before my eyes. My hands trembled as I smoothed out a crumpled receipt I'd found in Jackson's suit pocket while doing laundry. A receipt from the Drake Hotel in Chicago dated just 3 weeks earlier. The same week he'd told me he was at a pharmaceutical sales conference in Denver. My stomach twisted into knots as I added it to the growing pile of discrepancies I'd discovered over the past month. "It has to be a mistake," I whispered to the empty room, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. "There has to be an explanation." But deep down, in that intuitive place women often ignore to preserve their sanity, I already knew the truth. The signs had been there for years. The mysteriously timed business trips, the protective way he guarded his phone, how he never quite connected with my friends or family. I had dismissed these red flags as symptoms of his demanding career in pharmaceutical sales, a job that kept him on the road 20 days each month and paid for the luxury apartment we shared. Lightning flashed outside, briefly illuminating the framed photo on my nightstand. Jackson and me in Cabo San Lucas last year, his arm around my waist, both of us smiling into the camera. I looked radiantly happy in that moment, blissfully unaware that the foundation of my relationship was built on quicksand. My discovery had begun innocently enough. Jackson had asked me to mail an important contract while he was away in Boston for the week. When I couldn't find stamps in his desk drawer, I'd opened the one below it and found a jewelry box containing a white gold necklace with a teardrop sapphire pendant. My birthday was months away, and our anniversary had just passed. My first thought, embarrassingly, had been excitement about a surprise gift. That excitement had curdled into confusion when I found the receipt tucked into the box. "For Zoe, all my love, J." Zoe, not Bailey. Most women would have confronted their boyfriends immediately, but something, perhaps self-preservation, perhaps a desperate need to understand the full scope of the betrayal, had held me back. Instead, I began looking for patterns, searching for evidence that would either explain away my fears or confirm them. Over 3 agonizing weeks, I'd become a reluctant detective in my own relationship. I'd discovered password-protected folders on our shared laptop. I'd found a second phone charger hidden in his suitcase, but no second phone. I'd noticed that his conference calls often came at the same times each week, like clockwork. Each discovery was a fresh cut to my heart, a new fracture in my trust. Tonight's search had been the most devastating. After finding a hotel keycard from Boston in his wallet, I'd finally broken the password on his cloud storage account. What I found destroyed any remaining hope of an innocent explanation. Photos of Jackson with 3 different women in 3 different cities. Intimate photos. Loving photos. Photos that mirrored ones he'd taken with me. In Chicago, a stunning black woman with close-cropped hair and warm eyes, the mysterious Zoe, I presumed. In Boston, a willowy blonde whose pictures dated back nearly 4 years. In Seattle, a petite woman with striking red hair and a constellation of freckles across her cheeks. All beautiful, all smiling adoringly at the same man who had held me just this morning before leaving for yet another business trip. I reached for the tumbler of bourbon I'd poured an hour ago but hadn't touched. The amber liquid burned down my throat as I tried to reconcile the man I loved with this elaborate web of deception. 5 years of memories replayed in my mind, now tainted with doubt. Had anything been real? When he'd whispered, "I love you," in the darkness of our bedroom, had those words meant anything at all? My phone buzzed with a text from Jackson. "Missing you, babe. Dinner with clients running late. Don't wait up." A sudden hysterical laugh escaped my lips. Dinner with clients. Of course. I wondered which woman was sitting across from him right now, believing she was the only one. Did she feel special? Cherished? Did she believe, as I had for 5 years, that their love was unique and true? I took another burning sip of bourbon, feeling something shift inside me. The initial shock and devastation were crystallizing into something harder, something colder. 5 years of my life had been spent loving a man who didn't exist. 5 years of supporting his career, waiting patiently through lonely nights, planning a future together, all based on an elaborate fiction. As thunder cracked overhead, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront Jackson tomorrow when he returned. I wouldn't throw his things onto the street in a dramatic gesture of wounded pride. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me broken. No, I would do something much more thorough. I would discover exactly how deep his deception went. And then, only when I understood the full scope of his betrayal, would I decide how to respond. Setting down my glass, I pulled my laptop closer and began a more methodical search. These other women deserved to know the truth as much as I did. And perhaps, in finding them, I would also find a way to reclaim the sense of self that Jackson's betrayal had shattered. The first woman wasn't difficult to identify. Zoe Parker, pharmaceutical marketing director at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Her LinkedIn profile showed she'd been in her position for 3 years, aligning perfectly with Jackson's increased business trips to Chicago. In her profile photo, she wore the same sapphire necklace I'd found in Jackson's desk. I felt a strange connection to this woman I'd never met. She wasn't my enemy. She was another victim in Jackson's elaborate deception. Did she know about me? About the others? Or was she, like I had been until tonight, blissfully ignorant of the complex web she was caught in? As rain continued to lash against my window, I settled in for a long night of investigation. By morning, I would know exactly who I'd been sharing my boyfriend with for the past 5 years. And then, I would decide what to do about it. The weeks following my discovery were a masterclass in emotional compartmentalization. On the surface, I maintained the facade of a devoted girlfriend, greeting Jackson with kisses when he returned from trips, listening to his stories about difficult clients and boring conferences with practiced interest. But beneath this performance lay a cauldron of rage, grief, and determination. My investigation had rapidly confirmed my worst fears. Jackson Reed, the man I had loved for 5 years, was living multiple lives with surgical precision. There wasn't just Zoe in Chicago. There was Whitney Chambers, an art gallery owner in Boston, and Olivia Donovan, a software engineer in Seattle. Each relationship had been carefully cultivated over years, each woman believing she had found her perfect partner. The coincidental overlap in our names, all ending with that E sound, seemed like a sick joke. Perhaps his way of keeping our names straight when half asleep or drunk. I spent my days at my marketing job functioning on autopilot, and my nights meticulously documenting Jackson's deception. Every business trip over the past 3 years was cross-referenced with credit card statements, phone records, and social media check-ins. The pattern was undeniable and devastating in its precision. Chicago. First week of each month, allegedly meeting with hospital administrators. Boston. Second week, supposedly for regional sales meetings. Seattle. Third week, purportedly for pharmaceutical conventions. Atlanta with me. The final week, his home base where he recharged between trips. His schedule never varied. For years, I had accommodated his rigid travel plans, never questioning why pharmaceutical sales required such a predictable routine. Now I understood the sickening truth. Jackson had created a perfectly balanced rotation that allowed him to maintain the illusion of devotion to each of us. The most painful discoveries came from his digital footprint. I found nearly identical text messages sent to all 4 of us. The same sweet nothings, the same excuses, even the same jokes. There were photos of the same sunset sent to multiple women with captions claiming he was thinking of you in this moment. Birthday gifts repeated with eerie similarity, each of us receiving unique family heirlooms that were actually mass-produced jewelry he'd purchased online. Most damning of all were the financial records. Jackson had borrowed substantial sums from each woman, $15,000 from me for what he claimed was an investment opportunity, similar amounts from the others for various fabricated needs. None of these loans had been repaid. He had effectively funded his lavish lifestyle through the generosity of 4 women who trusted him completely. On particularly dark nights, when the weight of his betrayal felt crushing, I would pour myself a glass of wine and stare at photos of these other women. Accomplished, beautiful, intelligent women who, like me, had been thoroughly deceived. What did it say about me that I hadn't seen through his lies? What had I missed that might have saved me years of misplaced devotion? The turning point came 6 weeks after my initial discovery. Jackson had left for his regular Chicago week, and a familiar hollowness had settled into my chest. I found myself scrolling through Zoe Parker's Instagram page, studying the life of this stranger who unknowingly shared my boyfriend. A recent post showed her at a charity gala, radiant in a blue dress, the sapphire necklace gleaming at her throat. The caption mentioned her amazing boyfriend of 3 years, who couldn't attend due to work commitments. Something inside me snapped. These women deserved to know the truth as much as I did, and Jackson deserved to face the consequences of his elaborate deception. With hands that trembled slightly, I created a burner email account and composed a message to Zoe. The subject line was simple: "We need to talk about Jackson Reed." The body of the email was even more direct. "My name is Bailey Adams. I've been in a relationship with Jackson Reed for 5 years. I recently discovered he's been leading multiple lives with multiple women, including you. If you want proof, or if you just want to talk, please contact me." I included my phone number, attached several photos of Jackson and me together, and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then, taking a deep breath, I sent nearly identical emails to Whitney and Olivia. The responses came faster than I anticipated. Zoe called within 30 minutes, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Whitney emailed back demanding more evidence, which I provided. Olivia sent a one-line text. I knew something wasn't right. When can we talk? Within 24 hours, all 3 women had confirmed their own relationships with Jackson. Within 48 hours, we had created a private group chat to compare notes and share evidence. Within a week, the shock and pain had begun to transform into something more powerful, a shared determination to hold Jackson accountable for his actions. It was Zoe who first suggested a coordinated response. "He's carefully constructed separate lives," she said during one of our marathon video calls. "The only way to truly confront him is to bring those lives crashing together." Whitney, the most recently involved at 3 years but perhaps the most deeply wounded, initially wanted public humiliation. "We should create a website exposing him to everyone, family, friends, colleagues." Olivia, pragmatic as befitting her engineering background, focused on the financial angle. "Between the 4 of us, he's taken over $60,000. That's fraud, not just emotional manipulation." As for me, I wanted something more personal, a chance to see his face when his carefully constructed house of cards collapsed. I wanted him to look into the eyes of all 4 women he had betrayed and recognize that his deception was completely, irrevocably exposed. Over late-night calls and lengthy text exchanges, a bond formed between us. 4 strangers connected by the same betrayal, finding unexpected strength in our collective heartbreak. We shared stories that revealed identical patterns, the same pet names, the same promises of a future together, the same excuses for his absences, even the same intimate habits. It was Whitney who first brought up his tendency to sleep on the left side of the bed, sending us all into hysterical laughter tinged with tears. "His birthday is next month," I noted during one of our planning sessions. "He's expecting me to throw him a surprise dinner here in Atlanta." A moment of silence followed, then Zoe spoke, her voice taking on a tone I'd come to recognize as her marketing director mode. "What if we did throw him a surprise? Just not the one he's expecting." And so our plan was born, a strategy as carefully choreographed as Jackson's years of deception had been. It would require perfect timing, coordinated travel, and the stomach to maintain our individual performances until the moment of revelation. We spent weeks planning every detail, supporting each other through moments of doubt and weakness. There were nights I nearly broke, almost confronting Jackson when he returned from his Seattle rotation with Olivia's perfume still clinging faintly to his collar. There were mornings I woke up beside him, watching him sleep with an expression of peaceful innocence that made me question whether I could go through with our scheme. But then I would remember the detailed spreadsheet we'd created, documenting 5 years of systematic lies, and my resolve would harden once more. 3 days before Jackson's birthday, I sent him a text. Making special dinner reservations for your birthday Saturday. Just the two of us. Wear that navy suit I love. He responded with enthusiasm, completely unaware that in Chicago, Boston, and Seattle, 3 other women were packing suitcases and preparing to converge on Atlanta. The night before our planned confrontation, I lay awake beside Jackson, studying the profile of the stranger I had loved. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the life we had built together, the life I had believed in with my whole heart, would shatter beyond repair. Despite everything, a part of me mourned for what might have been, for the future I had planned with such certainty. But as dawn broke on the day of reckoning, I felt something unexpected, a profound sense of liberation. Whatever happened at dinner tonight, I would no longer be living a lie, and I wouldn't be facing the truth alone. The private dining room at Embers, one of Atlanta's most exclusive restaurants, glowed with soft amber light as I made my final preparations. Crystal glasses sparkled on the elegantly set table for 5, one place setting for Jackson, and one each for the women he had deceived. A bottle of Macallan 18, his favorite scotch, stood ready for pouring. To any observer, it looked like the setting for an intimate celebration. Behind the closed doors, however, the atmosphere was charged with nervous energy as Zoe, Whitney, Olivia, and I made our final preparations. Meeting in person after weeks of video calls had been surreal, like reuniting with old friends despite being strangers. We had spent the afternoon in my apartment, sharing the physical evidence of our relationships with Jackson, each revelation reinforcing our collective purpose. "Is everyone ready?" I asked, checking my watch. Jackson would arrive in 20 minutes, expecting a romantic dinner with just me. Zoe smoothed down her form-fitting black dress, the sapphire necklace, a family heirloom passed down from his grandmother, glittering at her throat. "As ready as I'll ever be." Whitney nodded, unconsciously touching the emerald bracelet on her wrist, another of Jackson's unique family heirlooms that we had discovered he purchased in bulk from an online jewelry wholesaler. Olivia, the most reserved of our group, took a deep breath. "Let's finish getting into position. The photographer is ready in the alcove?" I confirmed this final detail of our plan. We had hired a professional photographer, ostensibly to capture Jackson's surprise at his birthday celebration. In reality, we wanted irrefutable documentation of the evening, both for our own closure and for the legal proceedings that might follow regarding the money he had borrowed. As the others took their positions, I remained near the door, heart hammering against my ribs. 5 years of love and trust had culminated in this moment. Though surrounded by newfound allies, I had never felt more alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Jackson. "Just parking. Be there in 5. Love you, babe." Such simple words that had once filled me with warmth now tasted like ash. How many times had he typed those exact words to 4 different women within the same hour? The thought strengthened my resolve. At precisely 8:00 p.m., the door opened, and Jackson Reed entered the private dining room. At 36, he remained strikingly handsome, tall and athletic with the confident posture of a man accustomed to commanding attention. His navy suit was perfectly tailored, his smile dazzling as he spotted me standing alone near the table. "There's my beautiful girl," he said, crossing the room to kiss me. "When you said special dinner, I didn't expect all this." He gestured to the elegant setting, not yet noticing the additional place settings partially obscured by the centerpiece. I returned his kiss with mechanical precision, marveling at my own ability to maintain the charade. "Happy birthday, Jackson. I wanted tonight to be memorable." He pulled back slightly, studying my face with a flicker of confusion. "Are you okay? You seem tense." "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I expected, "I've been waiting to introduce you to some important people in my life." On cue, Zoe stepped out from the adjoining room, her expression neutral despite the storm I knew was raging within her. "Hello, Jackson." The color drained from his face so rapidly I feared he might faint. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged as Whitney appeared from another doorway, followed closely by Olivia. "Surprise!" Whitney said, her voice laced with cold fury. "Happy birthday from all of your girlfriends." Jackson took an instinctive step backward, his eyes darting between the four of us as the full magnitude of the situation dawned on him. The photographer emerged from her hiding place, the subtle click of her camera capturing his expression of pure, unfiltered panic. "What is this?" he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "This," I replied, gesturing for everyone to take their seats at the table, "is what happens when you spend 5 years building separate lives with 4 different women. Please sit down. We have a lot to discuss." To my surprise, he complied, sinking into the chair as if his legs could no longer support him. I poured scotch into his glass, he would need it, before taking my own seat. "How did you—" he began, then stopped, apparently unable to complete the question. "Find each other?" Olivia finished for him. "Bailey discovered your deception first. She reached out to warn the rest of us. We've spent the last 2 months comparing notes," Zoe added, her marketing director voice now edged with steel. "The identical gifts, the matching schedules, the borrowed money that was never returned. The lies." Whitney cut in, her voice breaking slightly. "So many lies, Jackson." I watched him visibly cycling through emotions, shock, fear, calculation, and finally, a desperate attempt at damage control. "I can explain," he started, adopting the earnest expression that had probably served him well in countless difficult situations. "My job is complicated, and my feelings got confused." "Stop," my command cut through the room like a whip crack. "We're not here for explanations or excuses. We're here to tell you what happens next." "Ice!" Jackson's eyes narrowed slightly, the initial panic giving way to assessment. Always the salesman, even now he was looking for an angle, a way to reframe the narrative. "First," I continued, "the financial matters. Between the 4 of us, you've borrowed $63,500 under false pretenses. We've prepared a repayment agreement. You'll begin making payments next month." "I don't have that kind of money right now," he protested. "The market has been—" "We've contacted your parents in Connecticut," Zoe interrupted smoothly. "They were quite shocked to learn about your situation, especially since you told each of us they were dead." His face contorted with fresh alarm. "You spoke to my parents? They're expecting your call," Whitney added. "Your father was particularly interested in hearing about the family heirlooms you've been distributing." She touched her emerald bracelet meaningfully. "Which brings us to the personal items," Olivia continued, her engineer's precision evident in her methodical approach. "We've divided everything according to who actually paid for what. Bailey will deliver your belongings to your parents' house next week." The systematic dismantling of his life played out over the next hour, as each woman took turns detailing the evidence we had gathered, and the consequences he now faced. We revealed how we had already contacted his employer about the fraudulent expense reports he had filed, claiming multiple client dinners in different cities on the same nights. We explained how we had created a shared document of his deceptions that would be made public if he failed to comply with our financial demands. Throughout it all, Jackson's expression cycled between disbelief, anger, and desperate calculation. Twice he attempted to appeal to me specifically, invoking private moments and shared dreams that he claimed had been real despite everything. I met these manipulations with silence, allowing the other women to continue their methodical deconstruction of his character. It was Whitney who delivered what I considered the most devastating blow. "The truly pathetic thing, Jackson, is how little creativity you showed in all this. The same pet names, the same anniversary gifts, even the same sexual moves." She glanced around the table with grim amusement. "Ladies, does he still do that thing where he thinks he's being spontaneous by suggesting the shower?" The burst of unexpected laughter that followed seemed to finally break something in Jackson. The confident facade crumbled completely, leaving behind a small, cornered man who had run out of scripts. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Restitution," Zoe answered promptly. "Accountability," added Olivia. "The truth for once," said Whitney. When they looked to me for my answer, I considered the man I had planned to marry, the future I had envisioned that would never come to pass. The depth of his betrayal should have left me shattered. Instead, sitting beside these three remarkable women who had endured the same deception, I felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Nothing, I said finally. I want absolutely nothing from you anymore, Jackson. As if on cue, my companions stood, gathering their belongings. Our coordinated exit had been planned down to the minute. The dinner, which Jackson had assumed would last hours, had taken exactly 90 minutes. The bill has been paid, I informed him as we prepared to leave. Consider it our final gift to you. You can't just, he started, rising from his chair. We can, and we are. Zoe cut him off. The documentation has been sent to your employer. The repayment schedule has been forwarded to your parents, who have generously offered to help you meet your obligations. Your things will be packed and delivered to Connecticut by the end of next week, Whitney added. Don't attempt to contact any of us. The locks have already been changed at all 4 apartments, Olivia noted with clinical detachment. And your access to our buildings has been revoked. As we moved toward the door, Jackson made one final, desperate appeal. Bailey, please. 5 years has to count for something. You know me better than anyone. I turned to face him one last time, studying the stranger I had loved. That's the thing, Jackson. None of us ever knew you at all. With that, we walked out of the private dining room and out of Jackson Reed's life, leaving him alone with the ruins of his deception and an untouched birthday scotch. Outside the restaurant, in the warm Atlanta night, the 4 of us stood in a circle, a strange mixture of exhilaration and grief washing over us. For a moment, no one spoke, the magnitude of what we had just done settling around us like a physical presence. Then, Zoe raised an imaginary glass. To the end of Jackson Reed as we knew him. And to new beginnings, Whitney added. As we hugged goodbye, planning to meet for brunch the following morning, I felt the first tendrils of something unexpected taking root. Not just closure, but possibility. 12 months after our unforgettable birthday dinner for Jackson, I stood in the sunlit offices of Phoenix Partners, watching as Zoe closed our 5th major client contract. The sleek downtown Atlanta office hummed with activity. Whitney directing our creative team in the conference room, Olivia fine-tuning our proprietary software platform in her glass-walled office. What had begun as a support group of 4 betrayed women had evolved into something none of us had anticipated. A successful marketing technology startup combining Zoe's marketing expertise, Whitney's creative vision, Olivia's technical skills, and my client relationship management. The seed had been planted during our post-confrontation brunch, when Olivia had casually mentioned a software concept she'd been developing to help companies better track marketing assets across multiple locations. Zoe had immediately recognized the commercial potential, and within hours, we were sketching business models on napkins. The money Jackson eventually repaid, along with our combined savings and a small angel investment, had funded our launch. The irony wasn't lost on any of us that the man who had taken so much from us had inadvertently given us the means to create something meaningful together. You look contemplative, Zoe noted, joining me at the window after her call ended. Just thinking about how different things looked a year ago, I replied. Did you ever imagine we'd end up here? She smiled. The sapphire necklace, reclaimed and repurposed into our company logo, catching the light. Not in my wildest dreams. But then again, I never imagined sharing a boyfriend with 3 other women either. We both laughed, the pain of that memory now dulled enough to occasionally serve as dark humor. The investigation into Jackson's financial improprieties had ultimately cost him his pharmaceutical sales career. Last we heard, he was working at his father's insurance agency in Connecticut, his dating profile conspicuously absent from all major platforms. His parents had made good on his debts to us, apparently more concerned with family reputation than their son's protestations. More importantly, each of us had healed in our own way. Whitney had finally started the art therapy practice she'd put on hold during her relationship with Jackson. Olivia had reconnected with her family after years of distance, a separation Jackson had subtly encouraged to maintain control over her time. Zoe had purchased her dream condo in downtown Atlanta after relocating from Chicago to help launch our business. As for me, I had finally stopped questioning how I could have missed the signs for so long. Therapy had helped me understand that Jackson's deception didn't represent a failure of judgment on my part, but a calculated manipulation by someone skilled at compartmentalizing his life. "Staff meeting in 5, Whitney called as she passed by with an armful of design mock-ups. "Olivia says she's solved the integration issue." As we gathered in our conference room, 4 women who had found each other through shared betrayal and forged something stronger from those broken pieces, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the painful path that had led us here. Jackson had unknowingly given me 3 soul sisters, women who understood me in ways no one else could. Together, we had transformed our collective heartbreak into purpose, our shared anger into ambition. Phoenix Partners hadn't just given us financial independence, it had restored our belief in our own judgment and capabilities. "Before we start," Olivia said, uncharacteristically hesitant, "I have some personal news." She took a deep breath. "I've been seeing someone for a few months now. It's getting serious, and I wanted you all to meet him before things go further." We exchanged glances, then burst into simultaneous laughter. "What's funny?" Olivia asked, confused. "Nothing," I assured her, reaching for her hand across the table. "Just that Whitney and Zoe were planning to have the exact same conversation today." "You too?" Zoe asked me, eyebrows raised. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "Third date tomorrow night. And yes, I've already run a background check, verified his employment, and checked that he doesn't have multiple social media accounts." More laughter rippled through the room, the healthy, healing kind that acknowledged our shared trauma without letting it define our futures. "We should make a pact," Whitney suggested. "All new partners get thoroughly vetted by the group. Phoenix Partners Dating Security Protocol," Zoe quipped, already making notes. As we shifted to business matters, I looked around at these women who had entered my life through the most painful of circumstances. One horrible man had brought us together, but something much stronger, resilience, determination, and genuine friendship, had kept us united. The birthday dinner that was meant to be my final gift to Jackson had instead become his unintentional gift to me: freedom from deception and the unexpected discovery of my true business and life partners. Sometimes, even the most painful betrayals can lead to the most beautiful beginnings. You just need the courage to serve revenge cold, preferably with 3 other women who understand exactly